Okay, so this week I've gone ahead and provided you with this cartoon house Maya file here. You shouldn't have any trouble opening it, but let me know if you do. And this is just so you can kind of work alongside me here and kind of see in real time some of the things that I'm doing. So once you open this file up, it should look just like this. I think by default the grid was off, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that grid back on. So we have it, and I'm going to press 5 to go into just the regular modeled mode. It was in 6, which had some lighting and shading going on. Okay, so we have this little cartoon house to play around with and work with, and when you click on it, right, I want you to notice that the house has all been combined into one thing. We don't have any individual components, right? When I click on any part of this house, we have the whole house, right? And this is good for the exercises that I want to show you, because I'm going to show you how we can deal and separate and break things off, create more objects, and have a little bit more control here. Okay. So the first thing I want to show you is extract and detach. Right? These are two similar tools, but I'll show you what they mean here. So let's say we have this house, and let's just say, I don't know, let's say this window right here, we want to remove this window, okay? So first thing is we have to select it. So I'm going to go to the face mode, and I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to click these things. The reason why I'm not doing a marquee selection like this is because this will also select what's behind it, right? It goes straight through there. So I'm going to undo that. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to hold shift, and you can see the little plus icon, right? That's just adding to my selection. If I hold control, that's going to take away faces from my selection. So it's similar to Photoshop when you work with layers. Although in Photoshop, if you want to add to your selection, it's shift. And if you take away, I believe it's option on a Mac. Okay, but so here, so I'm selecting all these faces. I'm going to rotate a little bit so I get the sides. Okay. I've got everything here. Okay, so I think I have. Okay, so I've got this entire window frame selected, and let's say I want to move it away from the house, right? I can't just hit W and do this, because it's just gonna extrude it, right? So if I want to detach this or extract it away, what I do is I make the selection, come up to edit mesh, and I'm gonna go to detach. Okay, so detach, and then now I can detach it, I can move it, right? But notice that if I go back to object mode, I'm right clicking, go to object mode, right? If I click on it, it's still included with the house, right? It's not a separate thing. So if I move the house, I move the window, right? So what you can do here is, if you want it to act independently, we then need to, I'm going to go back to face, and here I can draw a marquee selection there. So I've selected it, okay, and I want it to be an independent thing. So notice I can move this, but it's parented like to the house, right? So if I select the house, again, it's parented, right? So coming back, what you can easily do is just select it, go to edit mesh, and then go to extract. Okay, so that right there just severed it. So now it's its own thing. It has some other features here that you can play around with, although this might be more for another video. There's some odd things that you can do with this, right? Keeping faces together. Yeah, it's a strange little tool there, and maybe we'll go over that further in the future, but I mostly just wanted to show it for the extract feature that it did, because now if I go to object mode, now they're two separate things, right? They're two separate things, and if I want to manipulate the house, I can do it independently. If I want to manipulate this, I can, but notice it's still regarding the center of the house as its pivot point. So recall, if you want this to now have its own pivot point, you can go to modify, center pivot, and then now it has its own pivot that you can work with. Okay, so that's detach and extract, right? Really helpful for models that are all, contained into one thing, where, some models might have multiple, separate parts that you can work with, but this is how you can work with something that is all combined. Okay. So the next thing is, like, let's say, you have holes in some of your polygons that you want filled. You want a polygonal face there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this append to polygon tool, okay? And what this does is, I'm going to go to my edge mode here. What this does is it will allow me to fill any quadrilateral hole in my model. So any hole that has 4 sides I can fill in, right? And I'll kind of show you how that's done. So in this mode, I'm going to go to append to polygon, and it's asking me to pick an edge, right? So I'm going to pick this edge right here, and now what it's doing is it's highlighting all edges that could be potential applicants that this could connect to, but I'm just going to connect to the one just directly across from it, right? Directly across, I click there, you'll get this little pink preemptive selection that's basically saying, okay, this is what I'm going to fill, and if you hit return or enter, that will fill that in as a polygonal face, okay? So now, if you have a situation where you have more than more than 4 sides, let's just say the top of this chimney, for example. Let's say you see how it looks like a square, but it's really 8 edges, right? So I'll show you how to do this. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to face, and just holding shift, I'm going to select these faces. Okay, delete those. Okay, so this is really easy. If you have any other hole that's more than 4 edges, then a really simple way to do this is you would make sure you're on edge, and I'm gonna hold shift, and I'm gonna click and double click. So select an edge, then select the edge next to it and double click, and you'll see how in orange, might be hard to tell, but it's selected the entire edge loop here. Okay, and then from that you would go to where is it, mesh and fill hole. Yeah, so mesh here and then fill hole, and then there you go. That will fill any quadrilateral hole. Okay. Okay, there's 2 other things I want to show you here, and that would be the poke and chamfer edit mesh options here, right? So say you get a model, or you're working on a model like this, and you want to have more control over your polygons, right? So you need more, and you could do this. Remember I showed you the multi-cut tool? You can add in edges that way. You could, you could add in insert edge loops, right? But let's just say you wanted just a way to automatically do this quickly, and you wanted it to be, somewhat precise and geometric. What you can do is you can select, I'm going to select the entire house here. I'm going to go to edit mesh, and I'm going to come down to poke. Okay, what poke does is it finds the geometric center of every faceted face that you have. It creates a vertex there, and then connects that vertex with an edge to the 4 corners, right? Or to the corners of your object, right? Some might not be 4. So this could be helpful, just building on your wireframe a bit and giving you some more edges and faces to control. And then, if I wanted to, I'm going to come back to face mode. Let's say I'll select the face here, and then I could go to mesh, edit mesh, and extrude, right? It just gives me more faces that I can control, right? So that's poke, okay? The other one that I wanted to show you is chamfer. So poke is going to give you a geometric center on all of your faces. Okay, let me keep on doing. Okay, what chamfer will do is this is going to affect your corners of all of your faces here. So what this does is it puts in 4-sided edges around each of your vertex corners, right? Giving you the option to, have more control over those corners, right? If if you're wanting sharp angular bevels just on the corners but not your edges, right? And then you could also use these two together. So I can show you, if I did poke first, I have poke up. I could then also come up and then I could do chamfer as well, right? You could do them both at the same time, and you can see how that all of those center points now get essentially edges around them, right? And this is just to give you more control over your models in a quick way of inserting edges without having to do it manually. Okay, so play around with these tools here on this house here, and if you like, you can try and see what some of these others do. I just wanted to show you some of the more useful and common ones. We'll get to some of the other ones as we continue with our modeling lessons, but go ahead and play around with this and yeah, have fun.